Alright, I'm gonna be straight but honest, they kind of fumbled this ending. Oddly enough, I think one of my biggest complaints of this episode is its similarity to the games, and I feel like it's holding it back. I don't know if it was intentional to make the similarities part of the story, or if they felt that it was a natural way to progress things, but it just all felt off. Like, the things you want to happen do happen, but then they are interrupted by something else. To start, Nishiki kills Dojima, and Kiryu comes in too late, and he quickly decides to take the fall and tell Nishiki to keep living. I actually really like this version of Kiryu where he is the one encouraging others to keep living and keep moving forward. It feels very Ichiban of him, and unlike his Kiwami self, where in the ending he has given up and Date has to step in and have him keep living for Haruka's sake. Also, the actual death of Dojima, that was really well done. He begins by taunting him and believing that Nishiki won't actually pull the trigger. But then as time goes on, you can feel this, like, the tension of the scene settle. When Nishiki does pull the trigger, it does feel very sudden and kind of like a jump scare. That might be the best part of the episode though. From here it's all kind of downhill. When we cut back to 2005, Kiryu and Yumi reunite with Aiko and they go to Millennium Tower to settle things with Nishiki and get Haruka back from them. Also, the forest apparently lived and he gets one scene to tell Nishiki that Kiryu's heading up the Millennium Tower. Oh yeah, speaking of the forest, we actually don't get to see 2005 Kiryu fight in the Coliseum again last episode, even though that was his deal to get info on Aiko. Like, that just all happens off screen completely. So what the hell was even the point of the forest? He does two things in this series that the characters probably could have figured out on their own. Anyways, we get the Tojo clan, mainly the Shimano family, go upstairs ahead of Kiryu and tell Nishiki to disband the Dojima family. And Nishiki kills all of them mercilessly, even Shimano. And it's revealed that Nishiki is a demon of Shinjuku. Woo. I guess in some ways I didn't see that coming, but I didn't really care all that much for the demon other than that they looked cool and had cool scenes. Nishiki does go full on murder, and his motivation is to tear Kamurocho and the Yakuza apart. So I guess his main goal now is to kill all the Yakuza, which in the series, including the games I've shown, is impossible. It's useless in that there's no point to it. The only thing that we can do is keep living and change for the better. That's what the games preach, especially infinite wealth. I guess doesn't really apply here. So Kiryu and Nishiki have their fight. Kiryu gets stabbed in the hand, which seems to be a recurring thing in this series now. He gets stabbed a bunch, Nishiki gets injured too, and their fight carries on to the lower parking lot of the Millennium Tower instead of the roof. But speaking of, why the hell was that damn tower design so funny only for it to not be used? Like, those things stand out and protrude and are such an eyesore, and there's a whole plot point involving the construction of it, yet it's not used. Why? Anyways, going back to the bottom depths of the Millennium Tower, we see Aiko and Yumi hand over the 10 billion yen to Nishiki's demon subordinates to get Haruka back. These subordinates then realize they can take the money for their own, but Yumi attacks them and Aiko helps. Aiko ends up taking bullets for Yumi and has a sword of death, but not really. I'll get back to that. On the surface, a war breaks out in Kamurocho between the Omi and Tojo, but it's not clear why. Like, they just sort of start fighting and the leaders don't say a word to clarify anything except Kazama, who says, "Oh, this is not what it means." Like, okay, yeah, sure, let the Shimano lookalike from the game slice people up and believe that's all part of the plan, bro, trust. All hell breaks loose. The Tojo call in the Majima family, and Majima shows back up to fight, and we get very few scenes of him being like Majima and acting like Majima. He shows back up to fight and make the same as iconic outfit, but like, don't get too attached to him because the scenes are over before you know it. At some point, Kazama gets sliced in the back, but he's fine. Kiryu and Nishiki continue fighting at the basement of the Millennium Tower. Nishiki eventually gets that change of heart and he feels like he can't be redeemed. But Kiryu's like, you gotta keep living, it won't let you die. And Nishiki somehow in the scuffle ends up stabbing himself, and then we have another fake out death where he reveals that the original dragon of Dojima killed the real parents. Real, before I die, let me drop this bombshell on you, that changes everything. Which ironically is very true to the games. Yumi returns 10 billion yen to the Omi and the war stops and they leave. The following morning, Date, who let the war happen so that the Yakuza can take care of the Yakuza, comes in and cleans up the mess. Turns out Aiko is barely alive and is taken away in an ambulance. Majima also gets arrested. Yumi gives Haruka over to a caregiver, and that's the last we see of her. And that's it. Like, so much for her. Kiryu carries Nishiki out despite all their injuries. It's implied that Nishiki's still alive. He gets carried away in an ambulance. Kazama and Yumi then carry the injured Kiryu away, but as he grabs onto Kazama, he rips his shirt and reveals that Kazama was the original dragon Dojima. Whoa. The series ends on that note. A lot happens in this episode, but it all feels so thinly connected and almost pointless why these things happen. They kept the Kazama killing their parents thing, also have Kiryu idolize him, but this time he doesn't know it was truly him until much later. They keep Nishiki a murderer, but this time it's like an alter ego. All of this is revealed in the end with little hint to it or lead into it. Like, it just happens and it feels like it doesn't have any effect on the story. Everyone lives at the end. It's odd. Also, I thought Haruka would play a role in the story, but she just gets carted off away. We'd only get like a possibility of like a happy alternate universe ending where Kiryu and Yumi raise her, or at least take care of her until Aiko recovers. Like, she just leaves. I really wanted to enjoy this series and was on board on the new take on the story, but what follows in this episode after feels so bland and like drags on to a point where I'm actually like, what was the point of the series? Like, what's the theme, what's the moral, what's the lesson to take away from this? I guess you can say it's like the games where it shows how the Yakuza and the life of crime always lead to a life of eternal suffering and pain. But everyone lives in the end, except Miho, who almost feels like she died for no reason. Like, it was the catalyst for Nishiki's turn and that rift between Kiryu and Nishiki that's so iconic. But Nishiki just continues to kill people, and it's like, I'm gonna end the Yakuza. Like, slowly over the course of 10 years while maintaining a high rank in the Tojo clan. It's only until Kiryu shows up again and tells him no, and then he's like, okay, fine. Oh, and also Yumi last episode telling Kiryu to promise not to kill. She kills like 2 people in this episode, 3 if you count the first. Like, what happened to her? What made her kill? Was it all the resentment of the Yakuza ruining their lives? Like, she only kills if she has to. She seems to be quite skilled and competent. Like, could she control her anger better than Nishiki? Where did she learn to kill? What happened in those 10 years? Does Nishiki still love her after all these years? What the hell is going on? The series had something going on that kept me invested in each episode until the ending fell flat on its face. Like, who cares if Kazama is the original Dragon Dojima? Like, what effect does that have now? Why is it relevant now? I thought Kiryu and everyone else accepted that they were orphans and, like, moved on. Like, why does the series end on such a boring cliffhanger where there's no concrete resolution? For me, it's just a lot of whys to the story that had this happen that didn't really need to happen. Like, it felt like there was a way to easily resolve all this conflict, yet things just kept going and spiraling out of control. Like, why was Majima even there? Why did Sajima have to die? Why was Haruka even involved? Why did Nishiki stay with the Yakuza so long for them to kill him? What was his endgame? Like, who are even his subordinates? And who the hell is this fake Shimano? Why isn't he the real Shimano? Why does Tenkaichi Street lead directly into Dairy Square and not into the Millennium Tower? Kamurocho is just a straight line. Like, what the hell is the point of all of this? Oh, and also there's no shirt rip scene to reveal tattoos, and I don't even think Nishiki has a tattoo. This whole finale might seem dumb if you compare it to the games, but if you have no prior knowledge of the series, it just might seem okay, even just as a crime drama. It ends on a cliffhanger setting up a potential season 2, but it's all a conflict that doesn't feel like it needs to be resolved. The show Like a Dragon Yakuza went beyond the game and straight into nowhere, adding little to the series other than just the odd mashup of things people are familiar with, but put into a different context in an attempt to make something original.